Paula Roy's Favorite Foods is made possible with the help of Farm Boy. It's all about the food.
I'm excited to share with you today 3 recipes for really simple meals that are perennial favorites with my family. Best of all, they're quick to prepare, making them perfect for busy weeknights. Our first recipe on today's show happens to be a favorite of mine as well because it's a one-pot meal, and who doesn't love a minimal cleanup with lots of flavor? I know I sure am a fan. So I've started by cooking up some chicken breast, cubed into little bite-sized pieces. Your family may have their own interpretation of bite-size. Mine likes them on the small side. And cooked in olive oil with a little salt and pepper and some onion. So now that that's ready, we're going to add in some of our flavor boosters. So first up, we've got some slivered sun-dried tomatoes and a little bit of the oil that they come packaged in. I love using these for a great hit of color and also flavor. I've also got a minced clove of garlic, and you'll notice it looks a little different. I minced this a couple hours ago, and I just covered it with olive oil so it wouldn't get dried out. And because we're already cooking with olive oil, it's perfect. Just coax it out of the bowl here. And we'll give this a stir. We want the garlic to cook, so I'm keeping an eye on it on the bottom of the pan. And obviously you really need to pay attention with garlic because if it scorches, it tastes bitter and just really unpleasant, even more so than burnt onions. So you just want to give it probably 90 seconds or so. When that's ready, we're going to add in a little white wine for flavor. You can omit that or throw in a splash of water. It's up to you. And then following that, we've got some chicken broth. And we've also got orzo, which is a pasta that looks a lot like rice. And there's a couple things I like about orzo. It's got a great texture, it cooks really quickly, and it is nice in the dish because it lets the other ingredients shine. Okay, I think our garlic is good to go, so in with the wine. And again, that's just for flavor. And I'll give that a little stir. Then our chicken broth, and unlike cooking pasta in water, you don't need to let that come to a boil. You can just stir in the orzo right away. I use orzo often, mostly because of the speed factor. It only takes about 7 minutes to cook, and it absorbs the liquid, so you don't have to worry about draining it like other pastas if you put the appropriate portion of liquid to orzo. All right, I'm going to put the lid on that and just turn it up a bit. So once the orzo is cooked in about 7 minutes or so, and I'll be keeping an eye on it, we're going to add in a few more things for the finish. I've got some baby spinach leaves here. The bigger ones I like to tear in half, but smaller ones are fine as is. You could use regular size spinach and just give it a chop. Chopped kale is also lovely in this, or you can omit the vegetable if it's not something that you or your family prefer. I've also got some sour cream. This helps to give the sauce a really nice creamy texture. You could also use a little bit of cream cheese, maybe half the amount if you prefer, along with a little more water. Again, very flexible recipe. And finally, some freshly grated Parmesan to finish. So as you can see, it's a very simple meal. You can do some pre-prep, as I did, by cooking the chicken and onions ahead of time. So that really speeds things up and getting all your other ingredients measured out. Then at the end of the day, when you're ready to assemble and have it on the table in 15 minutes, all you have to do is add in, you could even add the garlic, and the sun-dried tomatoes ahead of time. So you just need to add the chicken broth and the orzo, cook that, throw these in, and you're literally on the table in 15 minutes. It's perfect. So we'll let this do its thing, and then we'll come back and finish assembling the dish. Our orzo's been cooking now for about 7.5 minutes, so let's take a look and see if it's all nice and plump and cooked. Oh yeah, it looks perfect. So this is a fairly small amount of this dish, enough for 2 people with a little bit of leftovers, easy to scale up in a bigger pot. And the one trick I'll mention is that if you go to reheat leftovers, you'll want to add in a little extra broth or water because the orzo just keeps absorbing and keeps absorbing like all pastas do. And this dish is good if it has a little bit of extra liquid. So we're going to stir in our spinach first. And you just really need to wilt it, which the hot orzo will do. If it needs a little persuading, you can put the lid on it for a second. I like it to be not too mushy, so I'm really happy if it's just barely wilted. Of course, this is a great way to add more nutrition to a dish, but it also makes it just that much more colorful. And I really appreciate a dish with varied colors. Okay, now we'll stir in our sour cream. I'm going to do it in a few portions so it's easier to combine. There we go. This makes for such a simple sauce on the dish without a lot of extra fuss or ingredients, and the sour cream keeps it naturally thick, so you don't have to add a thickening agent like cornstarch or flour or anything. So you just want to stir until you really can't see the sour cream, invisible little spoonfuls, I'll call them. And our spinach is so beautifully wilted. There we go. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to add a little bit of Parmesan cheese just to top it. Clean up the edges of the pot here. There we go. And if you want, you could add a sprinkle of fresh herbs on top, like basil or parsley. Usually my family's standing at the counter with forks in hand, so we don't always get that far. There we go. Our one pan chicken and orzo with vegetables is ready for dinner. Comfort food will never ever go out of style, in my opinion. My next recipe for today's show is a family favorite that never fails to please, and it's easy to make in advance for speedy suppers.
Welcome to Community News and Events on Rogers TV, Channel 22. I'm Josh Rackless. CHIO's RBC Race for the Kids is a lively family fundraising event that empowers participants to run, walk, or wheel in support of pediatric health care. On Sunday, October 5th at Wesley Clover Parks, you can take part in the 10K, 5K, or 2K accessible family fun run, complete with music, inflatables, and pet-friendly zones. The goal is to raise $500,000 to fund care, mental health programs, and advanced research at CHIO. Whether you register as a team, donate, or volunteer, all contributions directly support CHIO's mission. Lace up, engage your community, and help build a healthier future for your children and youth. To have your community news or events listed on our website, please go to rogerstv.com, click on events, and post your event. That's it.
Join us for Season 4 of Simply Cooking by Chef, Sunday nights at 8 o'clock, right here on Rogers TV.
Are you a passionate content creator ready to expand your audience reach? Do you have unique stories, captivating hobbies, or special interests that deserve a spotlight? Rogers TV is here to amplify your voice within the community. We offer you the platform to broadcast your content to a wider audience. And the best part, it's completely free. Don't miss this opportunity to share your vision and engage with viewers. Find out how Rogers TV can transform your content journey today.
Paula Roy's Favorite Foods is made possible with the help of Farm Boy. It's all about the food.
If you've been watching the past few seasons of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods, you'll know that I keep things pretty much to basics whenever I can. Sure, there's a place for air fryers and stand mixers and so on, but I'm often asked what tools I couldn't live without, and you can see them right here. If all I had was a cast iron pan, a knife, a cutting board, and a spoon, I think I could make almost anything. I've made cookies and cakes in my cast iron pan. I've used it on a gas barbecue in a power outage to bake bread. I have poached fish delicately to perfection in there. I've even made soufflés in it. There's a reason why cast iron has been an enduring, popular tool for hundreds and hundreds of years. And of course, a sharp knife, who can run a kitchen without one? Spoon to mix things up, a board to protect the surfaces below. Really, those are the basics, that's all I need. Onions. Do they make you weep, bring you to tears? Quick tip. Refrigerate them for 30 minutes or freezer for 10 minutes before you cut them, and those powerful aromatics that get into your eyes and nose won't be so problematic. It's sizzling in my kitchen already, and that's because I'm making this terrific macaroni soup, and oh my gosh, is this one ever a crowd pleaser. So in my pot here, I've got some celery and green peppers, getting them sauteed so that they'll be nice and tender in the soup, and they're looking good to me. So now I'm going to add in some cooked ground beef and onions, and I'm doing it in this fashion to show you that this is yet another great make-ahead meal. I like things that are assembled freshly as much as possible, because that's often when the flavor is best. But if I can do part of the work ahead of time, I am here for it. So we're just combining those. Now we're going to add in some dehydrated garlic flakes, and I'm using these to show you that this is a great option if you don't use a lot of fresh garlic in your kitchen and your fresh bulbs and cloves start to spoil or sprout and just don't have a great flavor. This stuff lasts for years. I bought this for my kids when they moved away from home so they could add a little oomph to their cooking but not be trying to babysit garlic on the counter or in the cupboard. And I've got some basil and oregano because this is an Italian-ish dish. I won't say genuine Italian from Italy, we'll say North American Italian inspired, and that's part of the flavor profile. I also use a lot of Worcester sauce, as we call it in my family, so we don't have to go through the long word. And this is a great flavor booster in all kinds of dishes. It adds what a lot of people call umami, which is that subtle flavor that's kind of earthy, sort of in the way that mushrooms hit your palate. And a little bit of salt, but not too much. So I'm a big fan of this in a lot of tomato-based dishes. A couple of shakes of hot sauce. You can add a little or a lot, depending on your preference. And the next thing I'm going to add is a can of diced tomatoes. And there's an important thing when you're making dishes for kids is to consider if they have any textural issues. So for example, a lot of kids don't like foods that are kind of chunky. Maybe it's because they were fed pureed foods a little bit longer than was optimal. Hard to say. But my solution for things like this dish, or even for chili when my kids were little, is to puree things a bit so that the texture is smoother. So I'm just going to use this cordless blender to slightly puree the diced tomatoes. I don't want them to be completely mush, but I just want to take out some of the bigger pieces. There, I think that's going to be good. And it just gives this soup a bit of a more uniform texture, even for adults. So it actually looks nicer in the bowl. So in go the tomatoes. And then for a bit more flavor, we're going to add some tomato paste. I always buy it in a tube. It's concentrated, so you use less of it, and it lasts in the fridge for months and months and months. So no more fiddling with half a can of tomato paste to get it into the freezer or whatever. This is just the best. Highly worth it. We'll give that a stir. So you'll see this resembles a lot of people's homemade spaghetti sauce quite a lot. I'll say North American style spaghetti sauce. And that's part of the reason why it's such a crowd pleaser. It's a fairly familiar flavor profile for people. I'm going to add some beef broth because we have ground beef in there. If you used ground chicken or turkey instead, then of course you could use chicken broth or even vegetable broth. You could make this with a meat alternative. The ground meatless meats that they sell would be absolutely fantastic in here. And I need about 6 cups of broth, so that's about 1.5 cartons. And let's see if I can do this without splashing from way up high. And then we're going to add in pasta. Now normally I would cook the pasta in the liquid in the pot, but to make things happen in the right timeline for TV, I've got some already cooked pasta here. I'm going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. Not too much, because then I'll taste it before serving and adjust the seasoning at that time. All right, and here's our cooked pasta. It's called macaroni soup. For some reason, I think I ate my lifetime fill of elbow macaroni as a kid, so I never buy it. I like these baby shells instead. So because the pasta's cooked, all we really need to do now is bring this to a boil to get it hot, and then it's going to be ready to serve. We'll get the lid on it, one lone noodle left behind. And I'm going to turn up the heat. And it should be ready in about, I would think, about 5 minutes. So that's pretty fast for a soup. I think our soup is ready to serve. Let's take a look. Yes, it's been boiling. It looks terrific. Got a bowl here at the ready. When you serve it, you want to make sure you scoop down to get a little bit of everything that's in there. Depending on the consistency that your family likes, you can add more pasta and it'll be thicker and almost more stew-like, and there's nothing wrong with that at all in my opinion. And you can also arrange to have a little buffet of toppings for people if you like. So for example, grated mozzarella or parm or cheddar cheese would be really good on this. I love to have slices of thick garlic bread on the side to go with this soup. It's just a perfect combination. So I hope you'll consider trying this delicious macaroni soup.
I find Asian-inspired foods to be among my favorites, and oftentimes they can be very quick and easy to prepare. Up next is one I make often, as it's a good homemade version of a favorite takeout meal.
Welcome to Community News and Events on Rogers TV Channel 22. I'm Star Rahbar. The Ottawa Parent and Child Expo returns to the Nepean Sportsplex on October 18th and 19th. This family-friendly event offers a weekend filled with fun, learning, and entertainment for all ages. Highlights include meet and greet sessions with beloved characters like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and princesses from birthdaypartymagic.ca. Tickets are available online or at the door. For more details, visit parentsandchildexpo.ca. To have your community news or events listed on our website, please go to rogerstv.com. Click on Events and post your event. That's it.
Hi, we're the Biggs and Bar Show from Shea 106.
And we finally got a decent advertising budget for our morning show.
Let's see what our team spent all the money on.
What do you think?
I have some thoughts.
Put it in your ears. The Biggs and Bar Show with Pasty Jamie on Shea 106.
You're watching an interesting local show on Rogers TV and you want to know more. That's when you head to rogerstv.com. Our website provides more information about our programs, our hosts, our schedule, and about how you too can get involved with Rogers TV. Visit us online at rogerstv.com.
Paula Roy's Favorite Foods is made possible with the help of Farm Boy. It's all about the food.
Taking a look at past seasons of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods, I had fun remembering the hints that I shared in each episode. Here are a couple of my favorites. First of all, if you like to serve up shredded meat, like for pulled pork or pulled chicken and so on, stand mixer, if you have one, is your best friend. Use the paddle attachment, cut the meat into about 4-inch pieces, and it'll shred a couple of pounds of meat in under 2 minutes. So easy and effective. Next up, if you like to bake with chocolate, cookies, cakes, so on, add about a half a teaspoon of espresso powder to your next batter or dough, and it'll boost the flavor in an incredible way. You won't really taste the coffee per se, but it just gives it such a rich depth of flavor. Love using fresh ginger but hate peeling it? There's a trick. You can use a spoon, grapefruit spoon if you have it, and the peel comes right off, but a regular spoon works just fine too. How simple is that? Last but not least, a sturdy ice cream scoop is better for lots of things, including ice cream. I'm gonna go back to after the ginger.
Yeah. And anytime.
Last but not least, a sturdy ice cream scoop can be used for lots of things, not just scooping the sweet stuff. I love it for scooping out squash seeds and picking out pumpkin seeds, all kinds of things. It's just a great tool. I'm a really big fan of Asian food. It doesn't really even matter what country. I love all the different nuances of the various flavor profiles, and I have to say pad thai is one of my favorite dishes. Now, I've learned that it doesn't travel as well as it might. Somehow takeout pad thai, by the time you get it home, it just doesn't taste quite as good as in a restaurant. So I decided to come up with a recipe that I call better than takeout pad thai. Really simple, and it just packs so much flavor into not that many ingredients. So I'm going to use shrimp as my protein for this. You could use strips of tofu, for example. Chicken would be great. No problem if you want to omit the protein completely. It's really up to you. So I'm going to start by sauteing my shrimp. The oil's pretty hot here. These are Argentinian shrimp, which is why they are pink, and you might think, oh, they're already cooked. Well, they're not. So depending on what you buy, make sure you read the label so you know whether or not you do have to cook it. And as you probably know, shrimp doesn't need long in the pan. You just want it to curl up a little bit, and we're going to flip it once. And then we're going to add in some cooked rice noodles. So this medium rice stick is what we're using for this recipe. It's got a nice weight, I'll say, to it. The thin rice vermicelli is a bit underwhelming, I'll say, in pad thai. So we're going to flip our shrimp. And this is a portion for one, which is great. You can absolutely make this recipe in a larger quantity if you have a larger frying pan, which I'm sure you do. So we want to make sure the shrimp is cooked completely because it's going to be not in contact with the bottom of the pan much after this. So I'm give it about, I don't know, 60 seconds more. If you want the shrimp to cook more quickly, you can butterfly it sideways so that it still has that beautiful shape that we know, but it cooks in half the time because it's half as thick. Okay, I'm happy with those. I'm just going to push them to one side. Now I've got my rice noodles soaking in hot water. That's the way to prepare them for the dish. You don't have to boil them like you do, I'll call them Italian pastas. You just need to soak them in very hot water. And I'm going to scoop out as much as I need. You can drain them in a colander if you want, but that's just one more thing to wash, so I do it this way. And I'm going to turn the heat down a little. So while the noodles are getting warmed, we're going to quickly mix together our sauce, which is soy sauce. Again, super simple. Brown sugar. Traditional pad thai uses tamarind paste, and you might have trouble finding that. So this is a tamarind-less version. Just put in some fish sauce there, and then rice vinegar. And we're going to just give our noodles a little toss. We want to make sure they're nice and hot. They're getting there. And we're going to add in, what am I looking for? A little sriracha. The amount of heat is up to you. I'm just going to put in a couple of drops here. My jar's not open. There we go. And then a little bit of tomato paste. So again, very simple sauce. You probably have most of the ingredients on hand already, with the exception perhaps of the fish sauce. I use fish sauce in place of anchovies in some recipes, like Caesar salad dressing, just a couple drops of fish sauce, because I find I don't often use up a whole tin of anchovies. So now I'm going to pour the sauce over the noodles. It's so quick to shake it up in a jar like that. And you want it to be pretty juicy at this stage because the noodles are going to soak up the sauce. And I'm going to put the shrimp on top of the noodles so that they don't get overcooked. That's looking great. And now another hallmark of pad thai is having scrambled egg in the mix. And so that gets cooked sort of beside the noodles. I'm just going to give this egg a little bit more of a beat. And you may have heard me mention before, when working with eggs, if you're needing to beat them, they beat up much better at room temperature. They just seem to relax a little bit. I'm just trying to break down the egg whites so we don't end up with larger pieces of egg white in our mixture. There, I think that's good. Just give the noodles another little stir. And then we'll put the eggs into this sauce on the side. It gives them so much flavor, it's great. And we're just going to let those scramble for a minute. So while those are doing that, I am going to get our toppings ready for our bowl of pad thai. You may have heard me say before how much I love green onions. Very economical, they last forever in the fridge, and they just give such a nice bright pop of flavor and color to so many dishes. I'll rarely put them into something that's being cooked unless it's like a frittata or something egg-based. Normally it's one of the garnishes that I like to put on top. So people sometimes think, oh, onions on top, raw onions, but it's just like adding parsley or fresh basil or any other kind of herb. So I treat it as more like an herb than, I'll say, a classic onion. There we go. And for our other toppings, we have some washed bean sprouts, and I've cut them a little bit so that they are a little easier to eat. We've got some chopped peanuts, and we've got some grated carrot. In some Thai restaurants, you'll see that the peanuts, they cut almost to the consistency of dust. I prefer to have them larger so I can really taste them as I bite into my portion. And I also think it's a good visual cue if you were serving someone and they hadn't spoken up about the fact that they had a peanut allergy. It's really a great way for them to say, oops, are those peanuts? And so then no mistakes will be made. All right, let's check on those eggs. Oh yeah, they're nicely scrambled. It's hard to tell because of the sauce that's in them, but I can see that they've solidified nicely and there's no really liquidy patches in there. So we're gonna turn off our burner, and now we're gonna transfer this mixture, once we give it a bit of a stir, into our bowl. It's one of those dishes that doesn't look super pretty, but oh my gosh, the flavor more than makes up for it. And I'm gonna try and keep a couple of the shrimp back on the high side here so I can put them on top. Also, I mean, it looks pretty for one thing, and it also lets people know what's in store in case they, like the peanuts, had any issues with shrimp. Get that noodle out of there. There, so we can see 4 of the 5 shrimp beautifully showing up on there. And now we're going to do our garnishing. So I'm going to start with the bean sprouts. It's important to rinse bean sprouts before you use them in a dish, and they do only keep for a couple of days in the fridge, depending on how fresh they are when you buy them. So I generally only purchase what I need for the dish I'm making at that time. They add such a great amount of crunch and obviously nutrition to the dish. Then we're going to do our carrots. And we'll put the green onions on the side instead of right over the top, because then you can showcase the shrimp again, as we talked about earlier. And then when people go to eat it, they can pick up what they want. And Thai food is generally eaten with a knife and fork, in case you're wondering. I know as some North Americans, they think all Asian food is meant for chopsticks, but it isn't necessarily. We've got our peanuts on top, and now our better than takeout pad Thai is calling my name. I can't wait to taste it.
With a little pre-planning, it is possible to make a healthy and delicious dinner even on a hectic weeknight. The 3 recipes showcased today, 1-pan chicken and orzo, classic macaroni soup, and homemade pad Thai, are all perfect for fast and flavorful meals.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
Hello, I'm Liz Dowdswell, Lieutenant Governor of Ontario. In 2008, carbon monoxide, a deadly invisible gas, killed an entire family in our province. That tragedy led to a new law requiring homes with potential CO sources